Should you be stretching? I don't know. Here's the deal. Stretching has become this really popular topic. You have people on both sides of it saying, never stretch. You shouldn't stretch. Stretching's bad for you. And then you have people that are like, stretching cures everything. Everyone should be stretching. Well, if you know me, you know what I've always said. Stretch what is tight. Now, this is interesting for me because I'm asymmetrical. So as I've pointed out to people, I stretch my right hamstring, but I don't stretch the left one. And I stretch my left hip flexor, but I don't stretch the right one. Yeah, because my pelvis is asymmetrical. I broke it in a car accident and it's not been the same. And so I'm tight on one side, but not on the other. And so I'm twisted. Do you need to be stretching? Well, I don't know. And this is something you have to think about for yourself. Where are you tight? Where are you restricted? Okay. And do you need that range of motion? This is like tuning a car. If you were a rally car, then you want to have a really loose suspension that's very bouncy, right? But if you're like a Formula One car, you want to have a really tight suspension. So if you're a power lifter, maybe you don't want a whole bunch of flexibility. But if you're a weightlifter, maybe you do want a lot of flexibility because you have to get in that position to snatch. Well, that's something to think about. Okay? You're a gymnast. You're a baseball player. All right? There are different positions for different sports. So maybe you do need to be tight. You could have a situation where you need to be tight. Maybe you're a sprinter. Okay, and we don't want to have like super loose quads or something like that. We want to have that tightness. At the same time, maybe you're in a sport where you do need to have a lot of flexibility and you have to get into really bad positions like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? And the other thing I want to point out to you is this whole thing that like stretching is going to get rid of your pain. Stretching might make your pain worse. If you have laxity in a joint and you stretch it even more, what do you think's going to happen? Okay? Here's another thought. What if you have a muscle pain? Is it painful because it's tight? Is it painful because it's weak? If it's weak and you stretch it, now it's going to get even weaker. What if it's strained? What if you actually have a tear in the muscle? If you have a tear in the muscle and you start stretching it, you're going to make that tear even worse. Well, we certainly don't want that. So this is one of those things where, there are two sides to this of people who are like, stretching's good, and then you have people who are like, stretching's bad. And then you have me, as usual, somewhere in the middle where I go, well, depends. And you have to stretch what's tight and only enough that you can get into the position for whatever it is that you're doing. So like if I need a front squat, I will have a hip shift if I don't stretch my right hamstring beforehand. But if I stretch my right hamstring beforehand, the hip shift goes away. Now, I don't waste time and don't need to stretch the left hamstring. In fact, actually, if I stretch the left hamstring, I may actually even aggravate my hip shift. So by stretching the right hamstring, it corrects my hip shift. Interesting. Yeah, because that's how bodies are. Bodies are not symmetrical. And the other thing is that you only need as much range of motion as you need. If you get more range of motion than you need, okay, now we can get into positions that maybe we shouldn't be in. So you want some tightness because you still want that stretch, response. You want to be able to bounce out of the bottom of the squat, so you don't want to be too loose. And if you're a power lifter, you don't want to be stretching your back over and over and over again because you want your back to be tight and rigid. Think about these things, like I said, it's like tuning a car. You wouldn't want the same suspension for an F1 as you would for a rally car. Consider the context of what you're doing. And the other thing is why are you stretching? If you have pain, is it painful because it's weak? Is it painful because it's tight? Is it painful because it's torn? Two of those scenarios, you don't want to stretch it. So, you have a tear in your calf, the calf muscle. Maybe you don't want to stretch that calf even more because you could make that tear worse. So I really feel like people need to have more discussion around this, and people need to stop being so binary in their thinking.